everybody, I'm Helen. This is your Club Soda live Facebook chat with me, Helen O'Connor, about controlling, moderating alcohol. Okay, so it's 7 o'clock. I'm just going to start with the first question that Laura posed previously on your group page, which was, why do I do this work? What's my what's my history with alcohol? For me personally, my relationship with alcohol did it as a teenager, usually felt a bit nauseated, didn't feel as though it was setting up any sort of positive reinforcement for me, and it was confined to the weekends, when I could afford it, and making sure I could get up for my Saturday job. So no real problem with alcohol there. Not really any alcohol abuse that I would say. Even when I did my first degree when I was 20 at university, I was the only person with a car, and I preferred the freedom of driving than the disinhibition of alcohol. So even for that degree, that 3 years at university, when most people do start to drink heavily, I actually really didn't. I was the driver and preferred to be able to drive than use public transport. And even then, when I left university, I remember being a bit aghast at boyfriends and other people I knew who'd maybe have a drink in the week in the house for no reason that was social or that I could tell. So I really didn't develop my own problem with alcohol till about probably 8 years ago now, when I was under a lot of stress with work. I decided to retrain. I was doing a master's degree whilst working as an HR manager. Both of those things were actually full-time, but I was doing them both at the same time. I got diagnosed with an autoimmune problem, and also my mother passed away. She was a schizophrenic and an alcoholic, and she was 57, so it was early, although I was expecting her to pass away because she was a chronic alcoholic. I thought she might set fire to the house, falling asleep with a cigarette or something, but she died of an overdose of drink and medication, which may or may not have been intentional. So there was a lot of stress there, and at that time, from the build-up of stress, and then that bereavement as well, that also came with various family stresses, I started to drink almost daily, and mostly alone in the evening, as a sort of relaxant / switching off thing. Bottle of wine, never more, barely ever less, and the same amount every day. So a bottle of wine every day, 7 days a week. I probably wouldn't drink more if I was out. I'd still drink wine if I was out. I'd still drink in the evening, not in the day, at the weekend. So it was very regimented, and I secretly preferred the bottle of wine I drank at home than the bottle I drank out. That was more how I enjoyed alcohol. It was alone, not secret, but just relaxing alone. And I'm quite an introvert, so alone time is something I love and still have and need lots of. So I did need to address my problem with alcohol, because I was gaining stone after stone in weight. I was not being productive, and I'm a really productive person. I wasn't letting anyone down, but I was letting myself down with things I wanted to get on with. So long story short, I did start to reduce what I was drinking, and I had a long history of not drinking very frequently to draw upon, and this was a sort of reasonably temporary period of a couple of years where I really started to use alcohol to essentially manage my feelings and relax and unwind, I thought. So I worked on cutting it out, and I didn't actually find that difficult for me, because, like I say, I had memories of not being a drinker in the week. I had memories of being relaxing in other ways in the evening, watching telly and reading and drinking tea. So I still had to make a conscious effort to do that, and to this day I now still think I've got a vulnerability, because I like relaxing and unwinding by myself. I don't derive as much pleasure from actually going out. I'm not an extrovert, so there's always that temptation to cuddle up at the weekend with a cheese board and a bottle of wine that I have to actively resist, that urge sometimes. I drink, I would say, socially maybe 4 times a month, but I wouldn't set that as a goal, because I consider setting goals a little bit dangerous in itself. I will only drink on So, well, suppose there's no reason to drink on that day. Am I still going to? Why is that a rule that I should? But on average, it's a social. I would drink socially with friends, about 4 times a month out. I don't have work that involves schmoozing, wining, dining, even and socialising with my colleagues. So that's not an issue. And it, 10 years ago it was. I worked in the city, so I am a conscious controller, and I'm prepared to be challenged by other people on why I keep those 4 social drinks in my diary. Why do I want to feel slightly buzzy 4 times a month or so? Why do I need to? I do kind of still like that fuzzy feeling from a couple of drinks, a bit comforting. So that's something I maybe one day will challenge myself on more and let go of. I also do, the last few years I've done 2 dry months a year. This year I did 50 days. I did from, I think, the day after Boxing Day through to the first week of February. So I did dry 50 instead of dry January. Do sober October because we do the mob. And I'm actually going to do dry July this year, which starts in a couple of days' time. So 3 full dry months a year as well, which I find just reminds me that how much better I feel and how much more I can get on with if I don't drink at all. Because let's face it, if I have a couple of drinks, the next day isn't the most energised or productive day. Even if I do drink, let's say, once a week, I am accepting that the following day will be, a little bit less productive. But then, I don't think I have to be productive 7 days a week, so that's okay. Lady there, Lynn Healy, what's the reason I gave up too many? It didn't sound like a lot, 1 bottle each night and no more. Well, I haven't given up, Lynn. I've cut down and would, let's say, on average drink socially once a week. But I didn't want to drink every night. I didn't want to drink 70 units a week. I wasn't drinking for pleasure. I was drinking alone. It was a liquid I was consuming. So I realised, and also I was gaining 5 stone in weight over 2 years. So that wasn't just from the alcohol, although that was part of it, but it's because I tend to not eat as well when I'm drinking. I don't eat as well the next day if I'm hungover. You have less self-control when you are drunk to restrain food intake. Plus there's 600 calories in a bottle of wine, plus it meant I wasn't doing any exercise. So I also wasn't getting as much of my private work done, like writing projects and things that I wanted to do but never seemed to get on with because I was drinking. So for me it wasn't so much, a bottle a night isn't a lot, because for some people that might be their goal, and for some of my clients they aim to reduce from 2 bottles a night to 1, and I allow them to have that as a goal because I think it's good to reduce by any amount you can. But for me, I wasn't happy with the consequences of my drinking a bottle of wine a night. And I think for everybody, you have a drink problem if drink is causing you problems. And comparing ourselves to what other people drink can actually prevent us from taking steps, I find. If you're not getting the things done you want to do, if you're not feeling as good as you can feel because of the drink, then you need to consider its place in your life. I don't set strict goals in the sense of, if I start saying something like, I will let myself drink on Fridays, and I assume that on Fridays I go out with friends. Suppose I don't go out with friends on a Friday, do I let myself drink at home by myself just because my goal was that I drink on Fridays? So for me, I'd rather not say I'm going to drink on a certain day a week, but if there's one social event that I go to at the weekend, which I wouldn't go to more than one because I don't like being that sociable, I would maybe drink at that, but I wouldn't set myself the goal of drinking, let's say, every Saturday, because I might not have something to do every Saturday, and the danger then is that I start drinking at home because it's the day I've allowed myself to drink, if that makes sense. And I think something to do with setting a goal of the government guidelines and not getting hangovers, where you'll probably get a hangover if you drank the guidelines in a session, and the men's and women's guidelines are 14 units now. That's not even a bottle and a half of wine. So for those people, if they want to drink, let's say, twice a week, they can split that up over the twice a week, and that would be 2 large glasses of wine each night for 2 nights. I'm working it out in wine, but I don't know how beer computes. So I guess that would be something like 6 pints of Foster's or something over 2 nights. But if your goal is a weekly amount of units, then that's absolutely fine. Set goals that work for you. I don't overdrink when I go out. I don't actually have a problem controlling drink socially. That wasn't my problem. I wouldn't get carried away when I was out. Like I say, it would be a bottle of wine in or a bottle of wine out, starting at around 8, finishing at around 11:30. There wouldn't be any variation there if I was in a pub or a club or at home. So I didn't have a socially controlling issue. For me, it was just a general reduction in life in general. But you know, certainly if your goal is government guidelines, and that's a perfectly acceptable goal to have. I don't say goals are bad, but I don't want my goals to be something to aspire to. If there's nothing happening this week, I don't want to say, but I must still drink 14 units because I've allowed myself to. If there's nothing going on, I'll happily have a week where I drink 0. So I think it's important not to use your goal as something to aspire to. If there's no reason to drink, then you need to question yourself why you're still going to go out, go and get some drinks purely because you've allowed yourself 14 units. And Joanne, if I felt better not drinking on the mob, I always feel better during the whole month because obviously I get a full run of weekends where I don't, have a slightly fuzzy head, let's say on a Sunday morning if I've been out on a Saturday night. Like I say, I might drink 2 or 3 glasses of wine once a week, so I don't feel particularly bad anyway, and I get lots of good sleep now. And you're right to challenge me, why do I drink at all? I just still do because I quite like a glass of wine with some food and another glass of wine with my dessert and chatting with friends and slightly getting into a different relaxing state for myself especially when I'm out socially. But yeah, I could, as I know, I've done 50 days, 30 days and 30 days in quite quick succession, and so there's no reason why I would need to drink again. But I just decided I would allow myself to be a controlled moderate drinker, and if that's once a week, I'm happy with that, because I'm not a binge drinker. Even if I drank once a week, it wouldn't be a bender, and there'd be no danger of it being a bender. But I know for some people it can. One drink can lead to so many that the one drink is too many, and for those people, then they might need to question whether they even have the one. But like I say, it depends on your drinking style and your drinking habits, I think. So I'm wondering if anyone's got any questions about their own controlling, if that's what they're hoping to do, because I certainly think reducing and controlling is better than doing absolutely nothing at all. It can be a step towards more reduction, it can be a step towards abstinence, but it's definitely a step in the right direction, and it's going to be better for you if you can reduce by even a small amount. Like I say, in the public sector, some of my clients are never even going to get to the point of having a day off. They can't contemplate it, but if they can cut what they drink in half, then I allow them to have that as a goal. I don't preach the government guidelines to some of my clients because they'd never get there. I help them reduce what they're drinking so they can feel more in control around alcohol, because once they've got the skills to reduce by a bit, they have those skills to reduce by a bit more, and maybe some people need to do it a lot more gradually. How do I go about setting my limits? Well, for different people it again will be different. If you're somebody who let's say drinks at home all the time, then like I was when I was at my worst, then that was an easier thing to stop in a way, because all I was doing was coming home and maybe going to bed early and watching some TV, and it wasn't a challenge, and my limits were around having days off. And as we've said before, I think we've said it on the mob. You're welcome, Joanne. We've said it on the mob, but we've also said it elsewhere. I think that most of my clients find days off easier than controlling what they drink on the days they drink. So I think one of the ways to set limits is to plan to have as many days off as you can. 2 in a row is much better for the liver than none. the liver is a really great resilient organ, but only if it's given time to do its day job. And if you drink every day, your liver can't do its day job because it's always processing alcohol. So I often suggest to people, start with 48 hours, consecutive hours off in the week. If you never normally have a night off, start there, for the health benefits, for the liver, and also so that you get an understanding of what you feel like when you don't drink. Because you need some days where you don't drink to understand what you really feel like, and what else is going on. From there, obviously, it'd be advisable to build towards some more days off, and setting personal rules around the days on which you don't want to drink. Many people, that's Monday to Thursday, or Sunday to Thursday, or not on a school night. For other people, it's only when I'm out, not when I'm alone, or only when I'm in a good mood, not when I'm in a bad mood. And it really, again, depends on the person. I mean, we're very clever at tricking ourselves into breaking our rules. I remember, I think it was on the last mob, people were talking about going from the mob to hoping to be controlled and more moderate, and putting their rules in place around when they intended to drink following the mob. And most people said, I don't want to drink in the week, I just want to drink on Fridays and Saturdays, I don't want to drink on Sunday lunch anymore. But the 1st of February, or it might have been the 1st of November, fell on something like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and everyone was intending to drink on the 1st of the following month because the mob was over. So they were not only telling me what their goals were, which was to not drink in the week, they were immediately giving themselves permission to break that rule the very first day of the following month because they were celebrating. So we need to be strict with our rules. Because it's very easy to convince ourselves, oh yeah, but just this once, or this week's different, next week will be fine, once I've cleared out all of these business meals I've got to go to, or once the family have gone, or ... So setting some rules around days, times of day, situations you will and won't drink in is good. Planning to have days off. It's much more difficult to control on a drinking day, because obviously when we're sober, we're much better and effective decision makers. So when you set yourself a goal of being alcohol free for the day, if you remain alcohol free all day, your sober self, your sober brain is making all your decisions for you, and that includes a decision to not get a drink. However, when you set up in the middle of the day and your sober brain sets you the goal and reminds you that you're planning to only drink 2 drinks when you go out after work tonight, that's all well and good, and your sober brain is there right up until the point at which you order the first of those 2 drinks. But once you've drank that first drink and you've drunk the second drink, then your brain is now drunk, and that brain is making all the decisions for the rest of the day, including whether you're going to stop at 2 or carry on. And when we're drunk, we are short-term hedonists. We're much less bothered about future consequences, and we're more looking for pleasure and comfort and satisfaction in the present moment. So controlling when you are drinking is harder, because when you're drinking, you're drunk, and you're drunk making decisions about stopping or carrying on. So you might need to set yourself some more creative strategies for the nights you're drinking but you don't want to drink more than so much. And again, that depends on where you're drinking. If you're drinking at home, you can obviously just buy it enough that you're intending to drink, and not have any more in the house. So you're making it much harder for yourself to drink more, because it's just not there, and it's a faff to go and get more. Not that you couldn't, but you're putting enough obstacles in the way. Quite a lot of my clients bridle at the thought of buying, let's say, miniature bottles of wine. It's not economical, I can't get the wine I like, blah blah blah. And I have to challenge them up and say, well, you're either trusting yourself to leave a third of a bottle of wine in the fridge when you've had your 2 drinks, or you can't trust yourself to do that, and you might need to reconsider how you buy your drink. And it might not be the most economical way, but it might be the way that helps you control better. If you're drinking out the house, then again you need even more solutions, because you've got other people to deal with. People might be pushing drinks on you, being persuasive. You need to be careful you're not getting kind of double measures from the pub. You might need to lie, fib, make an excuse, create an excuse. And again, it depends on you, the person that you are, the social crowd that you have, how you negotiate stopping at the amount you've set yourself. Some people just prefer to arrive later, so there's just less time to drink. Other people like to set up an appointment for later in the evening that they have to get back for, so that they then leave the pub earlier. Something I think Laura said, or one of our clients have said on the mob, they'll arrange for the Tesco's delivery to come at like 9:30, between 9 and 10 p.m. So they go to the pub after work, they have to be home for 9 for the Tesco's, the grocery delivery. So they create something that forces them to end their drinking session. And Lynn's saying she's aiming to moderate with 3 to 4 alcohol-free days. I think 3 to 4 days would be great. Trigger time, leaving work. If you live work and you live next to the village pub, so I guess you're leaving work to travel home knowing that next door is the pub, that's a high risk time. For high risk times it's quite good to change our routine. Obviously with work we normally have to leave at a set time, but maybe doing something on the way home from work, whether that's grocery shopping or the gym or a different route home. And obviously with a large group of people who meet at 6, I don't know how supportive they are. Again, some people's friendship groups are incredibly supportive. Even people who meet in pubs have very supportive friends. Other people have kind of drinks pushers who kind of poo-poo their goals and convince them to postpone change for another day. So I would, think about whether you can avoid the pub, just go home. Whether you can tell those people that you are not drinking certain days of the week for a while. You don't feel that it would be wise to go to the pub and drink soft drinks. If you don't think it's wise, that is. Or you could take a board game to the pub and get kind of distracted with a board game while they drink and you don't drink. Invite them round to yours for a book club or a board game evening. But change things a bit, because if we keep things exactly as they are, then it's much harder to make change. But I think that's great. 3 to 4 days, is really positive reduction and really good for the body and mind as well. Jules, isn't this goal setting setting up a mindset? Yeah, absolutely. I think it can, and which is why, like I say, I don't aim to drink 4 times a month, whatever, because if then I don't have 4 social events to go to, what am I going to do? Am I going to just drink by myself to make it to the 4? That's why I don't set myself a specific target of drinking on a certain day of the week or a certain amount of times a month, because it may be there's no activity at which I want to drink, in which case, why would I? And certainly we need to break the reinforcing sense of alcohol as a reward. And, believe you me, I get a lot of flack from people who consider alcohol to be a progressive disease and that everyone should stop drinking 100%. And some of my clients who are coming to try and reduce their drinking get flack from their families who think they should just stop. But I still think it's worthwhile supporting people to reduce rather than be paralysed by indecision or fear of not drinking at all, and to work towards change gradually. And if that needs to be done by goal setting, what you do differently on the days off and how you're going to drink less, then I think at least that's helping them get some breathing space, and their body can do a bit of recovery as well. And yeah, you have to be careful of rewarding oneself with alcohol. That's why people are celebrating the 1st of the month with alcohol, even if the 1st of the month is a weekday, is a alarm bell for me. If you do a dry month and you're already planning to drink at the end of it, then the very first day you can, then that is probably something you need to challenge yourself on. I'm getting the expert stopping things can't seem to progress to new things. That's great that you're 2 months alcohol free. So you're just not drinking, but you're not doing anything else. That's the way I'm interpreting it. So does that mean, Jules, that there's a vacuum for you? I'm not drinking, but I'm not doing anything other than knowing I'm not drinking. Have I got that right? Because I know that can be really hard. I mean, just not drinking but not changing anything else can be really difficult. Yeah, so doing nothing. Okay, well, it certainly makes it harder to stop, because it's very difficult to not think of something. You have to kind of think of it and then imagine a cross through it or something, but you still have to think of it initially. You can't not think of a green elephant. You think of one first before you try and make the thought go away. So, you know, just not drinking but not changing anything else will make it harder. But I don't know. I mean, if there are things you used to enjoy that you haven't done before, or, you know, haven't done for a while because you were drinking, if there were hobbies you used to have and enjoy that you could rediscover. Some people never have had any hobbies, and then it's a question of kind of trying things out. And, you know, people consider it quite a cliche to say join clubs and whatnot, but in the days of the internet, you know, there's a lot more things we can do to do different stuff, like meetups, where there's not really that much commitment or expense. You just see if you find a group of people to hang out with. Filling the time that we have that we used to drink in can take quite a lot of effort, because sometimes we do just want to flop and do nothing. And I still do. I like relaxing a lot. I can watch a lot of TV. I can binge watch Game of Thrones, you know, and Orange is the New Black and all sorts of things. I could watch hours of them. But that's not necessarily the best thing for my mind to be doing, and I do try and make an effort to read at least 10 pages of a book a day. And that was a tip I learned from, I think, James Clear. He's a blogger called James Clear, and he writes about habits and behaviour change and procrastination. And I took up one of his challenges ages ago about reading 10 pages of a book a day, which doesn't sound much, but I just found I wasn't reading at all. I was surfing the phone and the iPad and the computer and the web, but I wasn't doing any proper reading. So that's something I've started doing with my time. I've started preparing more meals from scratch, and, you know, taking a bit more time in the kitchen. Meeting people for walks is something I do now. I have a couple of people I meet for sort of power walks, and we also meet and go for a weigh-in as well, because I'm trying to lose weight because I'm quite overweight. So they're things that I'm doing in my spare time. And, you know, I'm a bit of a lifelong learner, so I'm probably always toddling off to some webinar or seminar or talk as well. I'm lucky enough to live in London, so there's quite a lot of that going on. But it can be difficult to just find new things to do. We might need to spend a bit of time. Some people spend time even with a therapist finding out what they actually are and what they want to do, and tap into something that alcohol can kind of bury for a long time, who we actually are and what kind of things we'd enjoy. Discomfort, move on to discomfort. Yes, it's my thing. Don't be a discomfort dodger. One of the things I find, and I practice a form of therapy called Rational Emotive Behaviour Therapy, REBT, which was sort of a forerunner of CBT. And one of the big things in that therapy is that people who have trouble changing their behaviour often have what's called low frustration tolerance or low discomfort tolerance. And I certainly see it a lot in the people I'm trying to work with, whether that's, you know, people giving up smoking, people trying to lose weight, be more active, eat healthier, cut down on drugs or alcohol, or give up and make other change, is that some people, and many people, I think, have this tendency to prefer comfort over discomfort. Of course, we're you know, that's how we've survived in a way, is by pursuing things that are good and that keep us alive. However, if we kind of demand to always be comfortable too much of the time, it means we just will never do anything. Yeah, REBT, yeah. It means we never do anything that makes us even feel remotely uncomfortable. It's certainly why I think lots of people can't stick to diets, and find it very hard to, let's say, cut down on alcohol, because even a reduction feels a little bit uncomfortable. It's not quite how we normally feel, and we get a sense that it's not quite normal, so it's not quite comfortable, and our brain is then firing off on all cylinders, trying to advise us what to do to enable us to feel comfortable again. And what the brain remembers is that, you know, normally you feel comfortable because you have a bottle of wine, so that's what you need to do, and at that point the brain then starts shuttling us all sorts of memories which are euphoric about all the reasons why it's good to do that thing, trying to convince us to do it so we feel comfortable again. And of course we're disrupting our kind of equilibrium by reducing or stopping drinking, because it's what for some time, for many of us for a long time, has been our baseline. It's been our new normal. Our normal is possibly having 10 units of alcohol in us in an evening. So stopping doing that will feel uncomfortable. And if we can recognise it as just discomfort, something we can tolerate, rather than something awful and tragic and unbearable, and it's just so awful we just can't change today, we'll do it tomorrow, then if we can accept some discomfort, cravings and thoughts and urges are more minimised, they're put in their place. It's like, yeah, I know I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable right now, that's because this isn't normal for me. But it is just discomfort. I can tolerate a bit of this, because if we always prefer like present ease, if we always prefer to be a short-term hedonist, then we're always going to be a slave to the present moment, and that really prevents us from changing, because we do have to not dodge that discomfort. And where can one find an REBT therapist? There's a whole network of them. I can send Laura a link or post it to the group. I don't know where you're based actually, Jules. In the UK there's a centre for REBT based out of Birmingham University, and I believe they keep a list, but I can certainly put some links up on the group, depending on where you are in the world. Oh, okay, yeah, there you go then. So there will be plenty in London, including some of the kind of really kind of top people in the field, and I'll pop that in the group. And REBT is based around the principles that it's not the events themselves, which is like the old Stoic philosophy, really, Epictetus and people like that. It's not the things themselves that cause us, unhappiness. It's the way we think about things. And in REBT, they talk very much about kind of core beliefs, or the core rules that people live by, one of which is, I absolutely must never feel any discomfort at all. The conditions I live in must always be to my liking, and if they're not, it's absolutely unbearable. And we need to become more flexible in our thinking. We might prefer to feel comfortable, of course we all would, like we would all prefer to be loved unconditionally by somebody, maybe, but if it doesn't happen, our life shouldn't be utterly miserable. And I think certainly cravings and urges can stem from this discomfort, and therefore becoming better at kind of saying, this is just uncomfortable. I don't prefer to feel uncomfortable, but I can tolerate being uncomfortable. It's not the worst thing in the world. It can help us ride out these sort of, especially the first nights that you're going without alcohol, when you first try let's say your Lynn's sort of 3 days off, you're going to feel uncomfortable. It will be different. It will not be your comfort zone, therefore you'll feel uncomfortable, but it's not life-threatening discomfort. Lots of therapists in Hampstead. You'll find a lot of Freudians and Jungians there. Yes, and I think that personally I'm an advocate of the therapy, because it doesn't emphasise the past as much as some therapies do. Not that the past isn't important, it's shaped us, but it's a therapy that doesn't consider it essential to really explore the past in order to help people have a productive future. So it can be briefer therapy, it can be shorter term, particularly for things like habits and some addictions, where you might not need really long-term therapy with a good REBT therapist. And I find it a very practical series of techniques that I can live by myself as well, to challenge my beliefs about what I can stand, what I can't stand, how awful things really are. I'm not sure if people can add comments after who re-watch this, but Laura will keep me posted on any questions that come up, and following on from this, and if anyone wants just to sort of chat something over that's cropped up that they didn't feel able to talk about in this public forum, Laura's got my email address if you know, if you've got any concerns or queries. You're welcome. Great. You're welcome, Martin. Thank you. Like I say, this is a sometimes controversial topic, reducing and moderating, but it's certainly a preferable goal to doing absolutely nothing at all. But, you know, people who've stopped and have remained alcohol free, keep going, you know, starting drinking again shouldn't be a goal if you've managed to stop, of course. But if you're still anxious and worried about how much you're drinking and looking to cut down, then, you know, damn right, you know, have a go at that and see how you feel. You're welcome, Lynn. And I've really enjoyed meeting you all for the Controlling Club Soda Banter. Thanks, Janet. It was lovely to meet you too. I think there was Lynn, Janet, Jules, Laura, Martin, Joanne. Yeah, lovely to meet you too. Thank you. And if you've lurked, like I say, if you've lurked and you have questions that you didn't want to ask in a public place, ping Laura, UC, and they can ping it to me. And you know, I'm bound by code of confidentiality, so it would obviously remain absolutely confidential if there were any sort of questions you wanted to ask privately. You're welcome, Joanne. Thank you. So, on that bombshell, am I going to say goodbye, or am I going to say goodbye, Laura? Okay, I'm going to say goodbye. Night, night, everybody, and take care.